Good morning from Paris, and welcome to this CEB Award Q&A. A little reminder, CEB Award is an annual competition that recognizes social projects across Europe, projects which have an exceptional contribution to social cohesion in Europe and address social issues in an innovative way. What we are going to do today is basically walk you through very briefly the application process for the CEB Award, and you will have a chance to ask questions of our pre-selection panel. The pre-selection panel consists actually of our colleagues from the CEB, our colleagues who have ample experience with projects, and who will be those to examine and score all of the applications, all of the entries that you will submit. Before we take your questions, which you are very welcome to put in the comment section of this LinkedIn Live, we would like to walk you through some of the parts of the application process. I mean, to clarify some of the issues that have come up in the past, to make sure that the process is as clear, as simplified for you as possible, and also for us to make sure that, of course, we get the best possible quality applications in the award pool. With this, I am going to ask my colleague Horst Wattenbach, who is the senior evaluator here at the CEB, to tell us a little bit what we expect when we ask you to describe the projects in the application form. So what are the kind of elements that we are looking for when we ask you to tell us a little bit about the project that you're nominating? So Horst, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jelica. Well, as you all know, the CEB is a social development bank who has offered this prize. Therefore, we are particularly interested to learn from you how your project gives social support and to whom. Now, different projects may have a very different dimensions of social support, and this is all fine. For example, there can be the main benefit towards the recipients of goods and services, but also internally by employing vulnerable people or engaging them in executing your project. So all these types of projects are perfectly fine, and we would like to know about this. So you do not need to worry that your project might be wrong, but we want to see the diversity of the social problems that are being addressed. Now, there's another element which is called implementation stage. Now, with this question, we would like to understand how advanced your project is. Now, we are less focused on mere initial ideas, but would like to see things that have already happened, but still there are nuances to which extent you have already implemented and tested your project, seen results and gained experience. And we would like to help expand and mature a social project that is ongoing with our prize.
Thank you so much, Horst. Let's move on to the next part of the questionnaire, which is we want to know about the beneficiaries of your projects, right? We want to know who your project is trying to help and how. And I'm going to ask my colleague Yael Dutiel, who is our technical advisor for education, to tell us a little bit more about where we're going with this. What are the elements which are important, and what you should put in your application regarding the beneficiaries. So Yael, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Jelica. I will just follow up on the sentence that Horst said, to whom this benefits. And I think that's an important aspect to clarify, as there could be many different types of beneficiaries for this type of projects. Sometimes the beneficiaries can cut across a category, but for example, if you are looking at the target beneficiaries are all the people under a certain level of poverty, and within that you can have women and children and men and the unemployed. So this could be a very diverse group, or it could be a very targeted intervention to just say one special group, the disabled or the children or battered women, or there's not a right or wrong answer, as long as there's a social nature of the beneficiaries that you're trying to help. But what is more important is that we understand who those beneficiaries are, where they are, where they're coming from, what is their characteristics that you need to tell us if they're of a certain age group, of a certain rural or urban area, of a certain condition of employment or unemployment, or gender. So we need in your presentation that you describe these beneficiaries and that you tell us who they are, and also that will come later, but how are you going to show us that these are the beneficiaries, as it will come later, and we'll discuss later of my colleague of the type of data that you will be provided. So I think this is to start at least what we can tell you.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Yael. Now, we also ask you to tell us a little bit about your project plan. And also, we want to understand how your project is sustainable financially. And so, what does that mean in practice and in terms of the kind of details that you should submit? I'm going to ask my colleague Elizabeth O'Connor, who is our monitoring manager. So, Elizabeth, tell us a little bit more about where are we going with these questions.
Thank you, Yelitsa, and good morning, everyone. So, just as Yelitsa said, there's an element of the questionnaire where we ask for details on the project plan and schedule, on your management structure, and also on how you see and will achieve financial sustainability. And as far as I'm aware, some of these elements are new to the questionnaire this year, so we felt this would be a good opportunity to kind of elaborate on these and explain in more detail what we're actually looking for and assessing in these areas. So if we start with the project plan and schedule, so it's really your plans for the development into the future of the project. So what those plans are and the timeline. So are you looking at 1 to 3, maybe 5 years? And it can be a number of different things. So the plan could be just consolidating the existing service, an existing project, learning from experience and using that experience to enhance the service. So that could be an example of a plan. You could also be looking maybe to increase the remit of the service. If Yael talked about the beneficiaries, you could be looking at additional beneficiaries or new beneficiary groups, again, depending on the project, or expansion plans. So you may be looking at maybe a new construction project, for example, to provide increased or more services. So it's really service dependent or project specific. And whatever that plan is, it should just be described along with what the schedule is for implementation of the activity. So that's the project plan. Then the management structure, here it's really about describing, like in a narrative, your project organogram. So what does the project team look like? How is it structured? What's like the management hierarchy? So it could be a small team located in one office reporting to a manager, or depending on the service, a team that is regionally dispersed, or even teams made up in a number of small units. So again, similar to the plans, it's really dependent on the service provided. And what we're really looking for here is that the structure that is in place is fit for purpose, so that it really supports effective service delivery. And also, like I mentioned, if there are plans for expanding the project or increasing it, maybe you'll also mention here any plans you might have to adapt the structure that it supports that expansion. And lastly, we come to financial sustainability. So here, okay, the question is how the project is financially sustainable. But I suppose what we're looking for here is, has the project sufficient sources of funding to cover all operating costs now and into the future? So you'll see here in this section, you're asked to state your operating expenses. So that's really the total cost annually of running the project. And these are normally made up of staff costs, overheads, any service specific costs. And the sum of these would be the total annual operating costs. And you should also state how you currently fund these costs. So is it coming from income coming from the project, for example, government grants, loans, other donor funds? And also it would be good to explain here your financial plans for the next 12 months. And this should be aligned again with the project plan you would have stated previously. Like say we talked about a construction project, if there were plans for expansion into a new construction of the facility, where do you expect this funding to come from? Basically, I suppose what we're looking for here is to see that there's a sound financial management plan in place. So back to you, Yelitsa. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So basically, to sum up, we don't only want to learn more about your project, but we also want some more details about the team behind, right? I mean, the structure of your organization, and basically, yes. I mean, how does your finance look like? I mean, what is really the plan in order to keep this project going over a certain number of years? So, well, last but certainly not least, this is very important because. Impact is really something that plays a big role in how we score the applications. And so impact and measuring results, this is really something that we also want to see in the application. And perhaps Horst, you can explain a little bit, how the applicants should go about this, in terms of how they can present if they're already measuring impact, or how are they planning to measure results in a meaningful way.
Okay, sure. Now, of course, there's an important distinction between immediate activities and results and impact. So, of course, if a company or an NGO distributes goods or services, of course, the recipients immediately receive that. And that is basically what we call the level of the activity, giving something and receiving something. But with that question, we want to go one step. Now, if the recipients of these goods and services have used it, what is actually the impact on their lives that you hope to achieve at a higher level and in the long term? And of course, as an entity, you will certainly want to know, how do my beneficiaries actually benefit in the long term, and how can we learn from being aware about these impacts, maybe also to adjust our own activities. So with that question, we would like you to explain to us how you learn about the real impact on the beneficiaries. What way have you thought about how to gather that information, how many people benefit from that, in order to adjust maybe or fine-tune the way you provide your services? So you may have a plan to either talk to people, to observe, to count, that we understand what system you have in place, that you actually become aware of what are the real benefits in the medium and long term, and how you capture that in your systems and adjust what you're doing. That would be great.
Great. Thank you so much, Horst. And in fact, so this a little bit about the impact and results, I think that's a very good seg into the next part, where I'm going to ask our colleague Christoph Karg, who is our Corporate Social Responsibility Officer, to actually tell us a little bit about the scoring, because I think that's what a lot of organizations are interested in learning more about, which is, how does this very nice and interesting questionnaire then translates into criteria for scoring, and what is important, and what is it that the pre-selection panel looks at. What are some of the most important elements that actually make for a good project or an excellent project? So, Christoph, this one is yours.
Thanks, Jelitza, and also good morning from my side to everyone. So basically, the scoring criteria is really where the rubber meets the road for you, right? Because this is where the answers to the questions we have in the questionnaire are translated to an assessment, to a scoring we do, and this is in the end how you will rank against the other projects that are put forward. And we have created three broad categories against each project is assessed, and that is impact, that is sustainability, and that is innovation and replicability. So, and each category is linked to specific questions. So really to make a sound basis of our scoring, and really to help us to evaluate each project individually, but also against the others. So what it means in the end, that for the first category, the impact, this is really where we put the most weight on for our assessment of your project. This is really about what Horst has already talked about just previously. This is how people are affected positively. So really trying to make sure to convince us that the change you're triggering in people's lives is considerable. Next in line would be sustainability. And while we take into account environmental impact, and there is a specific question on environmental impact, is your project positively or negatively impacting the environment? On sustainability, we see that a bit larger. We interpret that broader than just environmental sustainability. But what we here look into, and that has also been mentioned by Elizabeth, is the sound management and implementation of your project. So hopefully it should be a long-lasting project. How do you make sure that your project is long-lasting and impacting? And maybe also here, what we are going to take into account for sure is if you have partners or experts or local people that really help you root the project in the community you are trying to affect. But also the financing for sure. So tell us a bit about the financing, and that will also play a role when we assess the sustainability of your project. And finally, the third evaluation criteria we look at is innovation and replicability. And here the main questions we are asking and we are assessing against is it a genuinely new approach, your project? Is it really something new you're trying to do here? A new way of handling a long-known social issue? Is your project a cross-border project? So are you working in several countries maybe? That is also interesting for us because we are a social development bank in 42 member states. So for sure that does play a role for us if you're working in several countries. Or is your project already implemented in other locations, or other NGOs or other organizations, enterprises picking up on your project idea and implementing it in other communities, in other countries, in other regions? So all that plays into innovation and replicability. And I think that concludes the section around how we try to score your project and assess your project against the others.
Thanks a lot, Christoph. I think for this first part of the Q&A, this is it's good. I think we've covered quite a lot of ground, and we already have some questions which are coming in through the comment box on LinkedIn, as well as some questions that we have received on our email, on our dedicated email address, which is CEB Award at coebank.org. So let's start with the questions from LinkedIn. There is a first one which is asking basically, a very topical question: would a project to support refugees and refugee minors be eligible for the CEB Award? I would say Horst, perhaps you would want to take this one. The eligibility question?
Yes, sure. Well, obviously, a project aiming at helping refugees is, of course, definitely eligible, since the refugee crisis after the Second World War was actually at the origin of the creation of the CEB. Of course, we look at what exactly the project aspires to do, but as a theme, it's highly relevant and, of course, eligible.
Thanks, Horst. Now, next question. This is what happens when a project is selected? Now, for this, I assume selected, it means, what happens if your project is actually chosen to be the CEB Award winner, right? And there's some sub-questions as well. What kind of commitments are expected from the project leaders? What kind of reporting is needed? Especially on how the prize is being used. Christoph, I'm gonna let you answer this one because, of course, by now we also have some experience with the previous CEB winners, so that's an easy one. Please go ahead.
It's an easy one indeed, but it's also an important one, and we had that, I think, also last year coming up a few times.
Indeed,
so
we did.
It is really of importance to participants. So let me spend a few moments on that one. First, the good news. So the rules we are having here are really light. So we do not oblige the winner to do like heavy lifting on reporting or to provide us with any verification of how the money had been used. We are not so much interested in that. Having said that, for sure, we would be interested if you are able to share some details of what you want to do with that money, that is always of interest to us, and we would also happily include that in our communication, in our bank's communication, to really see the impact of the prize money. However, the rules around really reporting back to us are very light.
Yeah, I can definitely confirm this. And I would just also like to add that we really see this as a two-way street, meaning that, yes, of course, we would like to and we need to know how you are using the award money. But at the same time, what we want to do is really give you visibility. This is, I mean, we want to talk about the great work that you are doing. So it really, it's kind of a win-win situation. And so far, because we are in the third edition this year, right? So we have two previous editions. With the previous two winners, we've had excellent relations in terms of exchanging information and really putting a spotlight on their work. Even a long time after the CEB award cycle has finished, so to speak. So we also think about it as building long-term relations, which means that if you have updates to share, we will be very happy to receive them and to share them in turn with our audiences without, as Christoph said, very heavy lifting requirements in terms of reporting. We also received a few questions, very practical questions on our email address, and I think it's important to address them because I think I also recognize some of them popping up in previous years as well. One of them was, can we submit more than one project for the CEB Award? Horst, would you like to take this one on?
Yes. Well, there is no rule that there can only be one project per organization. But of course, a well-developed project probably requires a lot of attention. So I don't think realistically a smaller institution can have 5 good projects running in parallel. But formally, there is no exclusion to say one project per applicant.
Yeah. So an organization or consortium or a partnership can definitely nominate more than one project. We are flexible that way. So I can confirm. There's another practical question, and I'm just going to read it out. It says our application status says in progress. Does that mean that we just have to wait until the short list is announced? I can actually take this one. Basically, the very short answer is no. If your application status says in progress, that means that you have not completed it yet. At the very end of the process, you have to click on the submit button. And when you do that, you will automatically receive an email which confirms that your project nomination has been submitted. If it still says in progress, it means there is an element missing, and you can always go back and actually complete your application. You have that option up until obviously the deadline, which is the 20th of April. So for example, at the moment, we have more than 50 applications which are marked in progress, and we understand that the organizations are working on them. I mean, the questionnaire is of a certain length, so you want to make sure that you give it, the proper time to complete it. But really, please make sure that you do complete it. You have 3 more weeks, right? And once it's fully done, you will see your progress status change as well from in progress to completed, and then we're good. So yeah, that was a practical question. Right. So we have another one from the LinkedIn chat, which says, would it be possible to publish the criteria clearly and score each of them? That's an interesting one. I'm going to let Christoph tackle this one with the caveat, by the way, that broadly speaking, we have terms of reference and they are published in English and French on the award website. So, just to kind of open this conversation. Christoph.
Yes, that's really a good question, actually, and we have also discussed that internally. So far, we have refrained from putting the scoring and the criteria online. with the view maybe to do that in the future. For this edition of the award, we won't do so. But again, what I will underline, what Jelica just said, is that the award principles and guidelines, the document is called, is online. You can download that. That gives you a little bit of an impression of how the scoring goes. Sure, there isn't that much detail in there, but still it gives you a bit of an impression. So that's the award principles and guidelines.
Yeah, thanks, Christoph. And I think it's also it's good to mention that after each award cycle every year, I mean, we internally do quite a bit of debriefing and evaluation, and that we try to implement some of the lessons learned and simplify and really improve the process each year. So as you said, this has come up internally in our discussions, and I am guessing it might come up again for the when we discuss how to set up the next cycle. But so we will definitely take into account both, I mean, our learning from the process each year, and also the feedback that we get from the applicants. So on this, let's say, affaire à suivre, as we say here in France. Now, another eligibility question. We have somebody in Zimbabwe who is interested in the CEB Award. So, Horst, I'm afraid I'm going to let you deliver the bad news.
Yes. Well, we are really sorry, but the CEB operates in 42 member countries, and as our activities are restricted within our member countries, so is a social award. So it's really aiming at activities being developed within our 42 member countries. Sorry for Zimbabwe.
Yes, 42 member countries in Europe, obviously. And on this interesting note, in the first edition of the CEB Award, we have received applications from 15 of these 42 member countries. And then in the second one last year, from 27. So there is still room for improvement. And we're hoping maybe this year that we will get an application per country. So from 42 countries, that is definitely the goal. However, unfortunately, at the moment, that does not include Zimbabwe and countries outside of broader European geographical scope. I'm just checking with my colleague behind the scenes if we have any more questions coming in through the chat. I mean, I think we've already covered quite a few, especially in terms of eligibility. And some of the practical ones, a little bit about the reporting. I think to go back to that question about whether a project which aims to support refugees and refugee minors would be eligible, which as we already responded, yes. But I think, Christoph, maybe because you've had by now quite a lot of experience and you have a very good overview of the types of projects that usually apply for the CEB Award, I think maybe you want to say a few words about really like the breadth of different kind of activities that the organizations and the projects cover from what we've seen in the previous two editions, and in particular among the shortlisted entries. So, perhaps just to give a little overview on that.
Yeah, thanks, Jelica. Actually, the reason why I'm with that award is also because really getting to read all the different project ideas is a really thrilling exercise. And I can tell you that the scope of applicants brought forward to us is really amazing. I do recall some project ideas around reforestation through drones, or setting up cinema for children in hospitals, but also spanning to an app for refugee children in Europe, so that they can connect to social services in their neighborhoods. So you can really see like an incredible depth and breadth of different project ideas put forward to us. And really, if you think you have one of those great ideas, please let them know. Put it on our award website, and we will be very, very happy to have a look at your idea.
Yeah, and if you're looking for inspiration as well, on the award website, we actually have detailed information about the previous editions winners and shortlisted entries. And so you can take a look and really get inspired. We actually have a question about the application deadline, and in fact, I think yeah, we will probably be wrapping up the Q&A soon. So it's a good reminder of certain practical issues. So the application deadline is the 20th of April. We will be receiving the nominations until 1 minute before midnight on the 20th of April. So really, 23:59. At that point, the application platform closes, and any nominations that might be submitted beyond that time will not be accepted. So that means we still have pretty much 3 weeks. And if in this period you have more questions, I mean, there certainly be questions that we haven't been able to cover today, please write to us. As I said, we have a dedicated email address which you can find on the award website. You can also drop us a comment also below this the feed on this LinkedIn Live, and we'll be happy to follow up with you. I think the members of the pre-selection panel are really looking forward to discovering and reading through and scoring dozens and dozens of very interesting projects. And like I said, at the moment, it is looking very good. Quite a few of them are already in progress, and we hope to see even more so between now and the 20th of April. With a caveat, please remember to click on the submit button. It has to be completed and not in progress. So with this, I hope that this session was helpful to you. Like I said, we managed to cover some of the ground that we thought it was important. But if you have more questions, we are there to answer them between now and the closing of the application process. And on that, as per usual, you can find the timeline as well, a very clear timeline on our website. And so you will know already that in May, we will be publishing a short list of 5 entries, which will then be examined by our independent jury of experts. And the final winner will be announced at the hopefully physical award ceremony this year, which is something that we have not been able to do the previous 2 years because of COVID. But this year there should be an award ceremony in Dublin, which is part of our annual joint meeting. And so this is when the big reveal is going to happen. So thank you very much for tuning in this morning. We hope this was helpful, and we're really hoping to receive your interesting and inspiring nominations for the CEB Award. So thank you very much, and have a nice day. And of course, good luck with the application process.
Good luck.